This is where we talk real, no filters, no cap. Straight to the top and we never look back. This is where we talk real, no filters, no cap. Straight to the top and we never look back. Leaders in the building, money on the mind. Leveling up daily, leaving limits behind. Pull up, tune in, it's time to get it done. The Millionaire Nurse Podcast has officially begun. Let's go. Tune in every week.
Nobody tells you what it costs to be the first one. Everybody wants to celebrate after it happens, the diploma, the doctorate, the company that crossed $1 million. But nobody tells you about the nights before any of that, when you're sitting there with a decision to make, and there is not one single person in your bloodline who can tell you what's on the other side of it. My mother made it to the 9th grade. My father made it to the 6th grade. And I want you to sit with that for a second. Because when I decided I was going to finish high school, get a nursing license, and eventually earn a doctorate, I wasn't climbing a ladder someone handed me. I was building the ladder while I was standing on it. And here's the thing nobody prepares you for. Being first isn't just an achievement, it's an isolation. Today, I'm telling you exactly how I got through it. And I'm handing you the framework so you never have to build your ladder alone. Y'all, this is Dr. V, Doctor of Nursing Practice, CEO of VP Nursing, host of this podcast. And I want to tell you something before we go one more sentence further. Everything I'm about to share with you today is not a highlight reel. This is the deal. I have lived every single one of these first, and I've lived most of them without a map. Let me tell you something. I started as an LPN in 1992. That's not a typo, and that's not a humble brag. That's the starting line. From there, I built up through advanced practice into executive healthcare leadership and eventually into a doctoral degree that nobody in my family had ever touched. Then I built a company, not a side hustle, a company that has grown past $1 million in lifetime revenue with multiple six-figure years back to back. First person in my family to own a business like that. First person to grow it past $1 million. First person to string together year over year, multiple six-figure growth like it was normal. Now I know that you're sitting there thinking, Dr. V, that's impressive, but what does that have to do with me? Here's what it has to do with you. If you are a first anything in your family, your church, your friend group, your unit at the hospital, I need you to hear this episode. Like I'm sitting across the table from you because I built the exact framework I wish someone had handed me 30 years ago. And hey, if you're getting something out of this episode today, go ahead and like this episode. Subscribe if you haven't already and drop a comment. Tell me what first you're carrying right now. First in your family, first in your friend group, first in your career to go after something bigger. I read every single one. Here's what I need you to understand about being first. It is not just a title, it is a psychological weight. I call it the first generation ceiling. That's the invisible limit on what you believe is even possible for you, built entirely out of the fact that nobody before you ever went there. Your brain doesn't have a reference point, so it treats the unfamiliar like danger. When my mother stopped at the 9th grade and my father stopped at the 6th grade, that wasn't a lack of intelligence in my family. I want you to hear me on that. That was the first generation ceiling operating exactly the way it's designed to operate, generation after generation until somebody decides to push through it anyway. Most people think you break through a ceiling like that by working harder. Actually, you don't. You break through it by borrowing belief from someone who's already standing on the other side of the ceiling you're trying to break. Even if you've never met them, even if they aren't a part of your family, sometimes the fastest way to expand your own vision is to borrow someone else's until your own belief catches up. That's exactly what happened to me. For me, that person was Oprah Winfrey. I still remember the moment. I was driving around the water fountain outside the hospital where I worked when I heard that Oprah had officially become a billionaire. A billionaire. At the time, I didn't even know that was even possible for someone like me. So I did what many of us naturally do. I went back and I studied her story. I wanted to know if she'd had some advantage that I didn't have. Was she born into wealth? Did she have connections? Did she grow up with opportunities that I never had? What I discovered changed my life. She wasn't born with a silver spoon. In many ways, she grew up with far less than I did. She had shared that there were times she didn't even know if her family would have Christmas. I grew up with very little, but I never questioned whether Christmas would come. I never worried whether there would be dinner on the table or whether I'd receive a gift. When I realized that someone who had faced circumstances even more difficult than mine could become a billionaire, something shifted inside of me. The limits I thought existed disappeared. Her story became evidence that my circumstances did not determine my future. If she could create a life that's extraordinary, then maybe the possibilities for my life weren't limited either. That moment didn't just change what I believed about Oprah, it changed what I believed was possible for me. Here's what's costing first-generation achievers the most. And it's not what you think. It's not lack of talent. It's not lack of work ethic. It's the price you pay for staying in rooms that were never built to hold what you're becoming. I call it the room tax. Every day you stay in a room where nobody's done what you're trying to do, you pay a tax on your own belief system, and you don't even feel it happening. I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, Dr. V, I can't just leave my family, my church, my unit. I'm not telling you to leave anybody. I'm telling you to add a room. When I started sitting in rooms with people who had already built seven-figure companies, already held doctorates, already understood what it meant to negotiate a contract instead of accepting a paycheck, that's when everything shifted. Not because they gave me money, because they gave me proof. And that matters, but it's not even the most important part. The most important part is this. You do not need your own evidence to move forward. You need borrowed belief. Borrowed belief is when you let somebody else's proof stand in for your own until you build yours. When I hung around millionaires and billionaires, and I want you to hear me say that plainly, millionaires and billionaires, I wasn't trying to impress anybody. I was studying how they thought about risk, about money, about time, and I borrowed their belief until it became mine. This is the deal. The people you spend the most time with are quietly setting your ceiling and your floor, whether you ask them to or not. Once you understand that, you get to choose your ceiling instead of inheriting one. Now, most nurses stop here. That's the mistake. They find one mentor, get one piece approved, and go right back to the old room. That's not enough. You need this to be a system, not a moment, and that's exactly what we're building next. Nurse leaders, experts, coaches, consultants, and service-based business owners, listen closely. AI is changing business, healthcare, education, marketing, and leadership, and nurses cannot afford to be behind the curve. That is why we are hosting the Masquerade Millionaire Nurse CEO Conference happening April 16th through the 17th, 2027. We are bringing together 300 nurses into a room of powerful transformational experience where we will be unmasking the AI secrets, business strategies, automation tools, and consulting frameworks that nurse entrepreneurs need to build profitable coaching, consulting, and service-based businesses. This is not just another conference. This is a room where nurses stop guessing, stop waiting for permission, and start learning how to use AI to turn their expertise into income, impact, and freedom. And here's the best part. Once you purchase your ticket, you will not have to wait until the conference to start getting value. We will be releasing special bonuses along the way to help you stay above the curve, prepare your business, understand the AI shift, and walk into the room ready to execute. Only 300 nurses will be in the room. The mask is coming off April 16th through the 17th, 2027. Get your ticket to the Masquerade Millionaire Nurse CEO Conference. Comment AI and we'll send you over the details. Here's where it gets really interesting. The reason why I'm so intentional about mentorship, giving it and receiving it, is because I refuse to let being the first end with me. Ever first I became, the first nurse, the first person in my family to earn a doctorate, the first to build $1 million business, came with a price. But here's what I'm grateful for. It wasn't nearly as expensive as it could have been because I made one decision that changed the trajectory of my life. I refused to build my dream alone. I realized early that pride is expensive, isolation is expensive, and trying to figure out everything out by myself, cost far more than asking for help. So I invested in coaching. I found people who had already walked the road I wanted to travel, and I let them shorten the learning curve. Instead of paying for every lesson with years of frustration, missed opportunities, and unnecessary mistakes, I borrowed their wisdom. That decision didn't just save me money, it saved me time, it saved me heartache, it saved me from quitting on dreams that were bigger than my circumstances. When I look back, I don't regret investing in coaching for a single moment. I regret every moment I thought I had to have all the answers before asking for help. And that's why I do what I do today, because I don't want another nurse to spend 10 years learning what someone could have taught them in 10 months. I don't want another dream to die because someone believed they had to build it in isolation. No one hands you a map for becoming the first in your family to do something extraordinary. Sometimes you have to borrow someone else's map until you've drawn on your own. One of my clients, a nurse leader who had never seen anyone in her family run a consulting practice, told me she almost quit before her business ever launched. Not because the offer was wrong, but because she had nobody to prove it was possible. Once she got in a room with other nurse CEOs who had already closed real contracts, she signed her first agreement within weeks. The result didn't change, the room did. So let's put this together, because I don't want you to just feel inspired for 20 minutes and then forget every bit of it. I built a framework out of my own life, and I named it exactly what it is, the FIRST framework, F-I-R-S-T. F, find the ceiling you were never shown. You cannot break a ceiling you refuse to name. When you name it, you take its power away. I, invest in a room you can't fully afford yet. This is how you buy borrowed belief. The mentorship, the mastermind, the room. It's not an expense, it's the fastest evidence gathering tool that exists. R, room determines reach. Who you sit with weekly determines what you'll attempt monthly. Once you protect your room, you protect your ceiling. S, systemize the proof. Don't let your breakthrough live as a one-time story. Turn it into a repeatable process. The same steps, done again on purpose. T, teach it forward. The fastest way to know you've actually broken the first generation ceiling is watching someone else stand on your shoulders to break theirs. When you apply this, here's what changes. Being first stops being a lonely title and starts being a launch pad for everybody coming behind you. Here's what I want you to do this week, not someday. 1, name your ceiling out loud today to one person you trust. When you say it out loud, it stops running your decisions from the shadows. 2, find one room this month with people already doing what you want to do. It does not have to be expensive to start, but it does have to be real. 3, write down one piece of borrowed belief you can lean on this week when your own confidence runs low. A quote, a story, a client win, something you can return to on the hard days. 4, systematize one part of your last success. Whatever worked once, write down the steps so it can work again. 5, identify one person behind you who needs your proof more than they need your perfection. Reach out to them this week. And if you want the room I built for exactly this, where nurse leaders are borrowing belief from each other while they build a real consulting coaching business, that's what we do inside my next live training. Comment first, and I will send you over the details myself. So let's land this. The first framework, find, invest, room, systematize, teach. Being the first one in your family, your unit, your friend group was never supposed to be the end of the story. It was supposed to be the opening chapter for everybody who's about to come after you. I'm telling you this with love. Every ceiling I broke it so somebody else wouldn't have to build the whole ladder alone. That's the deal. Before you go, like this episode, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming up next, and drop a comment telling me one room you're going to add yourself to this month. I read every single one, and I might just feature your answer on a future episode. Because at the end of the day, the first one in the room only stays lonely if she keeps it that way. Go build your room. I'll see you on the next episode.